Hungarian PM threatens consequences over Zelenskyy's remarks about Druzhba pipeline. US and Russia discuss energy agreements behind closed doors, and Ukrainian's foreign minister explains security guarantee stance to Rubio and European leaders. The latest news next. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban has described Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy's remarks about the Druzhba oil pipeline as blackmail and threats, adding that they would have long-term consequences, reported by major Hungarian newspaper Magyar Nemzet with reference to Orban's post in the closed Facebook group Harcosok Klubja. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban said that it had been an eventful weekend and claimed that President Zelenskyy had openly threatened Hungary. He added that Zelenskyy had admitted that they were striking the Druzhba pipeline because Hungary did not support Ukrainians' accession to the Europe and argued that this showed Hungarians had made the right decision. Orban also stated that blackmail, bombings and threats would not bring anyone into the Europe, warning that Zelenskyy's words would have long-term consequences. According to a recent European Pravda article, Ukrainian unmanned systems forces under Robert Magyar Brody, who had struck a Druzhba pumping station twice in recent days, were exerting strong pressure on Orban. The article noted that until now Kyiv had refrained from targeting Druzhba, primarily to avoid damaging relations with Hungary. It added that Orban's new course had left Ukraine with no choice, and while Ukraine would not officially admit a link between the strikes and the accession process, the number of coincidences left little doubt. Viktor Orban once again chooses to twist reality, portraying Ukraine as the aggressor while deliberately ignoring the root of the problem, Russia's war and Moscow's energy blackmail. The Druzhba pipeline, ironically named after friendship, has long ceased to symbolize any true friendship. It stands as a monument to Europe's dependency on Russian oil and Hungary's refusal to break free from that leash. When Ukraine strikes at infrastructure linked to Druzhba, it is not out of malice or blackmail, as Orban cynically suggests. It is a direct consequence of his government's decision to side with the Kremlin, to obstruct Ukrainians' path toward the Europe, and to cling desperately to Russian resources at the cost of European unity. Orban speaks of long-term consequences, but the real consequences are already here. Every barrel of oil flowing through that pipeline finances Russia's bombs, missiles and massacres on Ukrainian soil. Orban's rhetoric tries to paint Hungary as a victim, yet in truth, it is his alignment with Putin that endangers Hungary's future, not President Zelenskyy's words. Druzhba today is not about friendship between nations. It is about the toxic friendship Orban maintains with Moscow against the interest of both Ukraine and the European family Hungary pretends to belong to. Ukraine has intensified drone strikes on Russian oil refineries and export infrastructure. The most vital sector of Vladimir Putin's economy has come under attack, Reuters reports. According to the media outlet, Kyiv is showing that it is capable of striking back while the United States tries to broker a peace deal. The attacks have disrupted Russia's oil refining and exports. Some regions of the country are experiencing gasoline shortages. The strikes came in response to Moscow's advances on the front line and mass attacks on Ukrainian's energy sector. Impact on negotiations and economy. Experts believe Kyiv's actions are intended to raise the stakes in possible peace talks. In this way, Ukraine challenges the narrative that it has supposedly already lost the war after the meeting between Donald Trump and Putin in Alaska. According to Reuters estimates, the attacks hit 10 plants and disabled at least 17% of Russia's refining capacity. This equals 1.1 million barrels per day. Exports and seasonal demand. The drone war has led to an increase in crude oil exports, coinciding with Washington's pressure on China and India to reduce purchases from Russia. The strikes also came at the peak of seasonal demand for gasoline from tourists and farmers. As early as July, Moscow had tightened restrictions on gasoline exports due to rising domestic demand. After the attacks, fuel shortages worsened in southern Russia, in the occupied territories of Ukraine, and even the Far East. In Vladivostok, long lines have formed at gas stations. Authorities attribute the situation to an influx of tourists. Risks for fuel supplies. According to Sergei Vakulenko, senior fellow at the Carnegie Russia-Eurasia Center, Russian refineries have lost only part of their capacity. However, this could still create problems with domestic fuel supplies. Russia receives a quarter of its budget revenues from oil and gas exports. These funds have fueled a 25% increase in military spending to record levels since the Cold War. Sanctions and military spending. Western sanctions forced Moscow to sell oil at discounts and cut off gas supplies to Europe. But this has not stopped the production of weapons and ammunition. The war in Ukraine has turned into a war of attrition. Both sides use drones and missiles to strike deep beyond the front line, damaging each other's economies. Over the past month, Ukraine has attacked Lukoil's refinery in Volgograd, Rosneft's facility in Ryazan, and several sites in the Rostov, Samara, Saratov, and Krasnodar regions. In addition, Ukraine struck the Druzhba oil pipeline 3 times, through which Moscow supplies cheap oil to its allies Hungary, Slovakia, and Belarus. American and Russian officials discussed several energy deals on the sidelines of talks in August. These proposals were seen as an incentive for the Kremlin to agree to peace in Ukraine and for Washington to ease sanctions against Russia, Reuters reports. According to the agency, after the invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, Moscow lost access to international investment in the energy sector. It was also banned from entering into large deals. Possible projects and return of ExxonMobil. According to 3 sources, the possibility of ExxonMobil returning to the Sakhalin-1 project was discussed. Another idea was to supply American equipment for Russian LNG projects such as Arctic LNG 2, which are under Western sanctions. Reuters also reported that the idea of the US purchasing Russian nuclear icebreakers was discussed. Sources emphasize that these negotiations are not being commented on publicly. Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha explained Ukrainians' position on security guarantees and their next steps toward peace to US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and European counterparts, according to a post by the minister on X. Specifically, a phone conversation took place between Sybiha, Rubio, the foreign ministers of France, Finland, Germany, Italy, Poland, and the UK, as well as European External Action Service Chief Joseph Borrell. According to Sybiha, the discussion was based on previous contacts among the country's leaders, the recent visit of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy to the US, and the work of national security advisors. Ukrainian's foreign minister confirmed to allies that security guarantees for the country must be concrete, legally binding, and effective.
They should be multidimensional, including military, diplomatic, legal, and other levels. We all share the conviction that the Ukrainian army is the fundamental level of any such guarantees. Therefore, its maximum strengthening is our top priority.
He also reiterated that Ukraine is ready to take the next steps toward achieving peace.
We are ready for meetings at the level of leaders in any formats and geographies. We are ready to put an end to the killing and give diplomacy a chance. Moscow must know that it cannot drag its feet forever.
The diplomat emphasized that if Russia continues to reject meaningful and constructive steps toward peace, it will have to face corresponding consequences. Sybiha clarified that he was referring to significant sanctions, intensification, and expanded support for Ukraine.
I am grateful to our allies for their support and unity. Ukraine remains committed to its role as a transatlantic security contributor and trusted ally.
The US State Department also confirmed the conversation between Rubio, Sybiha, and European leaders. While no details were provided, they noted the statement said that the parties had agreed to continue coordinating diplomatic efforts to end the war between Russia and Ukraine by achieving a lasting negotiated settlement. That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. Support Ukraine, like and subscribe.